The catalyst for the beginning of the archives was the death of Walt Disney in 1966. I was a librarian at UCLA at that time and was shocked and moved by Walt's passing, as were many people in the United States. And I'd always been sort of a Disney fan. I don't know that I felt I was really knowledgeable about Disney. I'd never read a book about Disney. But I did go to the Disney films, and I did go to Disneyland regularly once it opened, and I watched the Disney television show every week. So I felt that I should do something to honor Walt Disney, and it turned out to be a bibliography. I had done other bibliographies that had gotten published, including one on Jack Benny, and so I proposed one on Walt Disney, and there'd never been one done before, and so people at the Disney studio who I contacted agreed to help me on that. And so I got to know some people here at the studio while I was working on the bibliography, and so I was sort of in the right place at the right time when the studio started thinking about what are we going to do to preserve our history. Started out with what are we going to do to preserve Walt's history, and then from that grew to the whole company. And so I heard that they were starting to wonder about what they could do, and I thought, yeah, that sounds like an interesting job. So I contacted them and proposed my services, and they didn't have anybody on their staff that knew anything about archiving. So I took a leave of absence from UCLA for a couple of months and came up with a proposal for setting up the archives, and took them about 6 months to decide, but they finally agreed to go ahead and asked me if I'd come and do it. So I essentially wrote my own job description. Nice. The main clientele for the archives is the Walt Disney Company. We are here to serve the employees of the Walt Disney Company. We used to be open more to the public for coming in to do research, but the company has just gotten so large. I mean, this company is 10 times as large as it was when I started. And so the demands on our time are such that we really can't work with the public as much as we used to. So we've had to cut back on that. But we are available to any employees of the Walt Disney Company. And if you just think of the business that Disney does, so often departments have to look back into our past for current projects they're working on. And so that's why we're here. The great thing about my job is that there is no typical day. Every day is different, and we don't always even know what we're going to be doing that day when we come in the morning. First thing I usually do is check my email, and there's usually 20 or 30 emails that have built up over the night, and big people asking all sorts of questions, both from the public and from employees in the company. We do answer basic questions for people outside the company as part of the public relations of the company. So when we can, we'll answer these questions if it's something we can find the answer to. Plus, one thing I was doing today was finishing up answers for a long list of the Ask Dave questions for the D23 website. About once a month, the D23 editors will send me a whole batch of questions. So I get maybe 50 to 100 questions at a time. And I will go through them and pick out the ones that we haven't answered before, the ones that have an interesting answer. There are some that there is no answer, and it's not worth putting it in the magazine that, sorry, I don't have an answer to your question. But yeah, there's no typical day. We get visitors coming in. We do orientations of new employees. We have researchers coming in doing research, and so it's a lot of variety, which I love. Has changed a bit in the last few years. We weren't collecting what you might call museum objects very much in the early days of the archives. They took a lot of space, and we had no museum plans really. Now the company's thinking, well, someday we might want to do a museum. So starting a few years ago, we have been adding to the archives a lot of movie props, a lot of costumes, and a lot of elements from the attractions at the parks when they are closed. So, but that's only in recent years. We did go to the parks when we started this and say, what do you have stashed away here that really should be kept in the archives for historical purposes? And we did acquire some things that way, but and through the years we've acquired other things relating to shows like Country Bear Jamboree when they are taken out of the parks, or America Sings. But a lot of these things are too big really for us, so it would be hard to keep all the ride vehicles, for example. But we are selective, and we try to get elements of especially the more important attractions when they close. The oldest item in the archives is actually a Disney family item. It's a deed that is signed by Walt's great-grandfather, Elias Disney, the same name as his father. Elias Disney and his wife Maria Swan Disney signed this document relating to some land they purchased up in Canada in the 1850s. I think the year on the document is 1856, so that's the earliest thing we have. We're constantly getting things in from all different areas of the company because we're trying to be comprehensive in being able to tell the history of the company. So we get materials in from every division of the company, whether it's employee newsletters or restaurant menus or ticket books, ticket samples, or press releases. All that sort of thing is coming in to us every day. One thing that's on my desk today, 3 posters. A Disney employee found 3 posters that we didn't have, and so brought them in and gave them to us. So we're constantly adding to the collection. I would say it's still very physical. What we are doing is digitizing photographs when they are requested. Our photo library's got about 3 million photographs, so there's no way we will ever be able to go in there and digitize them all. But as photos are requested, we do digitize them, and then those digitized photos are ready and available next time somebody needs something. So on demand, we're digitizing. We have such a huge collection that it would be impossible to go in and digitize everything. I mean, Walt Disney's correspondence files fill several hundred boxes, so it would be a 10-year project just to scan all of those. My favorite items are the ones related to Walt Disney himself, because these are a lot of the things that most collectors can't hope to have in their own collections. And my particular favorite is a postcard that Walt wrote to his mother when he was 15 years old, and did a drawing on the back showing that he he had talent as an artist, even though once he started the company, he realized he could hire animators that could animate a lot better than he could. So he stopped doing artwork then. I go to the parks as much as I can. I since 1971, when I made my first trip to Walt Disney World, I just recently added them up, and my last trip, which was in December, was my 50th. So about one a year, sometimes twice a year, down to Florida. I get down to Disneyland, I don't know, once every 3 or 4 weeks maybe. I was down there last week talking to the cast members at Club 33 and telling them something of the history of the club. The week before, I was down for the opening of World of Color. So yes, I do get to the parks as much as I can, and I do enjoy them. I must say also that as of May, I've been to all 11 of the Disney parks, because in May I was finally able to get to Hong Kong Disneyland, which I hadn't visited before, so now I've been to all of them. Oh, that's easy to answer. Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland. Yes, I grew up with Disneyland, and I've always loved pirates, and it's got so many elements in it that you can go on it every time you go to the park, and you're going to see things that you hadn't noticed before. And that was something that Walt was really adamant about, that put as much as you can into these attractions so that people will want to keep seeing them. And that's certainly true with Pirates of the Caribbean.